If you want proof, name your criteria and let's see about getting you just what you need to weigh the truth of these claims. But one must be careful. If you demand too high a level of evidence or so specific a standard of proof for what constitutes a believable miracle claim, other beliefs you hold that aren't even up for debate at this present time may not survive the highest possible levels of scrutiny. For instance, the resurrection of Christ, while a highly debated subject in secular circles, is not, at least in the vast majority of Protestant churches, held as a claim which is up for debate, but rather as a settled belief intrinsic to the faith. Yet the issue is hardly settled in the realm of scholarship. There's a fair degree of consensus that Jesus was a real person who actually lived and that he died by crucifixion. Yet that broad and general consensus is lost on the question, did Jesus then rise from the dead? Many historians argue that the historical method cannot establish a miracle as such, that it can analyze claims about miracles, but it can't verify God's action. Others argue that given the data, the resurrection is a plausible hypothesis and is the best explanation, but even the most optimistic would hardly go so far as to say that history alone can settle the question of the resurrection decisively. Therefore, the danger the Protestant skeptic faces in light of hundreds of individual miracles is that one may find themselves unwilling to believe in a miracle's validity due to the miracle not passing a bar which the resurrection itself may have a hard time clearing. I would argue that the purely highly skeptical approach would be a disservice to the God-fearing, Christ-following, Bible-believing Protestant. A healthy dose of skepticism may be indulged in by all means, but be wary of standards set impossibly high which your own presuppositions or articles of faith may not survive. Or to put it another way, the danger is not believing too easily, but believing so cautiously that Christianity itself becomes epistemologically fragile. At this point, the question is no longer Catholic versus Protestant, it's what kind of evidence Christians think God is allowed to leave behind. Furthermore, I would argue that in light of both the absence of Protestant distinctive miracles and the abundance of Catholic distinctive miracles raises serious questions as to the inherent validity of Protestant theology. My argument today is not that any single miracle compels assent, nor that historical inquiry alone can force theological conclusions. Rather, it concerns explanatory coherence and evidential expectations. A church that claims visible continuity, sacramental mediation, saintly intercession, and a materially engaged divine economy would reasonably be expected, if those claims were true, to generate recurring reports of public, doctrine-shaped phenomena. And wouldn't you know it, Catholicism does, across centuries, cultures, and categories. A theology that rejects such mediation, by contrast, would not predict the same evidential profile, and indeed, Protestantism does not produce it. This asymmetry by itself doesn't alone prove Catholicism, but it does create a real explanatory burden. To dismiss every Catholic-coded miracle claim requires a mode of skepticism that closely mirrors the methodological skepticism commonly deployed against the resurrection itself, an approach most Christians already judge to be inadequate. The question then is not whether skepticism is permitted, but whether it is being applied consistently and at what cost. If even one Catholic distinctive miracle is genuine, the implications are not marginal. They bear directly on ecclesiology, authority, and the plausibility of a church that claims not merely to teach about God, but to be an enduring instrument through which God continues to act in history.